Hi, in this video I want to discuss the importance of using the higher time frame pivot levels. Now we talk about them quite a lot, and I'll show plenty of updates on the morning time frame, and I'm looking intraday wise of a chart, and I'll be looking for the opportunities to buy and sell. They give me good targets, they give me good support and resistance levels. They've got so many uses. Some traders, and this is probably quite key to some people. Some traders would be looking for when they're below the black one on here, the daily pivot. They're bearish. When it's above the daily pivot, they're more bullish. But remembering, of course, levels of resistance and support are absolutely key. And this is where we can find sometimes we might not have seen it on anything else, but it's like this movement here. It's in between. But is it in between? If you run up to the weekly pivot, it's found support bang into the weekly pivot. Why there? Goodness knows. I don't care. But we see this is the weekly pivot, and again, you could, in fact, in some respects, the power of it, price reacts to it. Usual standard technical analysis overlaid in terms of using pivots. So if we get a breakdown of a certain price, we expect things to come up and retest. Okay, it didn't retest the price itself, but it retested the pivot and then rolled over again, and off it went. So we see these trading opportunities effectively. Here it's below the pivot, and the earlier part of this week it started selling off, and off it's gone. It's hit the S1. I talked about stats where if it hasn't hit the pivot and hits the S1, you've got a good chance of the S2 being hit. 65% on the euro. So it was a reasonable opportunity when it starts coming through into that level to trade it further. Okay, so you can see, as I said already, the difference between coming back here to the daily pivot, then we then look at a weekly pivot, and the difference between the two. It's pretty powerful. I could go through here and show you so many examples. Yes, there are times when price seems to dance around all over the place and nowhere near the pivots, but generally, even when it's been ranging here, it's been sitting between its weekly pivot and its weekly R1. So even with chop, it's support around the S1 area, in this area here, and yes, it will crash through at times. News based, it doesn't really matter, will affect it, but absolutely some beautiful sort of support resistance levels. If you don't look at them, I would suggest you do look at them. So okay, we've gone from shown a very key level today, and it's, I mean, you could be forgiven for thinking this is going to run down to parity, and it might do. We've got a new week. The main pivot will be coming down because the high, low, and close, and that's going to be down here somewhere. We might even see an opportunity to sell into it. Okay, so here's the weekly. Let's go up, and then I've got a daily chart here with a monthly pivot on it. So we can see the monthly, the pivot itself, the R1, S1, R2, R3, etc. And again, all the same principles apply. There will be times when it doesn't hit any other pivot apart from the pivot itself. There have been times in the past when it's not touched the pivot at all. It's just come through and barely moved at all through the month. It's just choppy. But here, again, well, you had the weekly pivot just below this. You had the monthly S2. There's potential of support around those levels, of course. Just showing it on this live chart, this current chart. Okay, and again, you can see how if you can ignore them, of course, but there's good probability S3s, S2s, R2s, R3s don't get hit very often. When they do get hit and the price moves around it, there's often a chance for a bounce either side, or a retracement. So there we go. There's the monthly, and you can see again, it's just a euro dollar. And finally, looking at the quarterly. Now this is a price level. Once again, we can see the strength of these pivots. Okay, sometimes as I say, it will flash through a little bit. There isn't absolute precision. I was talking about the weekly pivot coming into effect here. We also have the quarterly pivot, so we have the quarterly S3 and the weekly S3, both being hit on the same day. So it's bound to give us some sort of, for those that are trading off these levels, bound to give some sort of support potentially anyway. Same principles here though, breakthroughs, retracements, and I just suggest that you pop them on and look at your favorite, whatever it is, currency pair, stocks, indices. But you'll find, I mean, the S&Ps, for example, I'll bring that up in a moment. It's floor traders that actually, the S&P floor traders that actually came up with the idea. You'll see on the quarterly basis here. I mean, this is a weekly chart and a quarterly with a quarterly pivot. You just see how price is stuck below the main pivots here. Yes, it's tried to break out, not managed to do, pulled back. So this is a weekly chart. There's some quite biggish movements. It doesn't look very much on here, and it looks quite messy, but it's just how good a resistance some of these points and support that these points give. Now sometimes it'll hold it and it'll be bang on. Other times, of course, as I said, the precision isn't always there. There'll be a roll on the prices. Up here, for example, it's rolled through it and pulled back, but it's gone back up and tested and gone through that sort of level. So it's really a food for thought. It's I would strongly, if you're a swing trader, position trader, you'll find that these work particularly well for you, particularly weekly pivots, monthly pivots, and quarterly pivots in particularly. I'll just up at the S&Ps on here just to show you the S&Ps. Hopefully I've got enough data on here for the S&Ps. There we go, and there we go. So here, I mean, it's just, well, it's on this bigger picture here. Weekly comes back, tests underneath the main quarterly pivot, sold off. When it's below the quarterly pivots, it's seen as being bearish. Above the quarterly pivots, very much bullish. Bigger institutions use the same principles. They're looking at the same sort of levels, so you'll find that they discuss them and use these for a much bigger picture. So I've popped it on here. It's come down, and look at the different time frames here. So this is the it's a daily chart, monthly pivot. Look, okay, there's points where it goes through and chops around a little bit. Here it comes down. It doesn't find support. It's not going to find every level of support and resistance, but the going across the different pivot levels, you will see opportunities. This is a 4-hourly chart now I've come down to, and it may have not been in happening on a quarterly basis, or because those pivots are further apart. Obviously a monthly pivot, they're a bit closer together, and so on. So it's, as I say, it's important to look through the different time frames, particularly, I mean, swing traders, position traders. It's well worth looking, as well as day traders. Day traders, don't be blinded just by the short time frame. It's like the price action itself. You should always go up time frames to see what's happening. With pivots, it pays dividends to do exactly the same, and just find those points of support when you're thinking this is going to go on forever. Well, hang on a minute, maybe not. It doesn't mean to say it's going to stop at S1, but it's pretty powerful, and you know, just run it through. As I say, look at your favorite, whatever you're trading, your favorites, and pop them in there. Okay, so I hope you find this useful. If you do, please subscribe to my channel, and you will get to see more similar. Take care. Bye for now.